In today's video, we're going to discuss why hedge funds expect Bitcoin dominance, so the total percentage of the crypto market, to soar. What does this mean? Forget alt season. Hedge funds and investors are getting more selective with the tokens that they're buying. And it looks like potentially Bitcoin is going to carry on running away by itself. Everything you need to know in today's episode. So, carrying on with what has been the etiquette of the past weeks, I'm going to read once again one of my stories. DL News, publishing as always, top tier journalistic, top tier news, and some of the most up-to-date things and stories and ideas, narratives that are parading around the cryptosphere and beyond. So today's article from Moi is titled, Forget Alt Season, 70% of hedge funds see Bitcoin dominance soaring. Ever heard of BitWriters? It's your Bitcoin-focused ghostwriting agency. They've got over 6 years experience building up blogs, newsletters, and educational email courses. Because remember, not your emails, not your audience, not your customers. Link in the description below. This is important because people have been wondering what's going to happen with their altcoins. Altcoins, for those of you that don't know, are alternative cryptocurrencies. Anything that isn't Bitcoin. Some people call them shitcoins. Some people call them altcoins. Some people call them cryptocurrencies and meme coins and content coins and all that sort of stuff. Let's dive in, why don't we? A majority of hedge fund managers are banking on Bitcoin's dominance to surge over the next year and kneecap the budding altcoin season many investors were hoping for. That's according to a new report by Crypto Insights Group, which surveyed 50 hedge fund managers with more than $5 billion under management. Of those, 70% said they expect Bitcoin to decouple from the rest of the cryptocurrency market. So 70%, for those of you that don't know, is triple what the number was last year. So pretty much they're expecting Bitcoin to continue to dominate, for Bitcoin to continue to take over. Right now, Bitcoin dominates 61% of the total 3 trillion, a little bit over 3 trillion crypto market. So how high can it go is anybody's question. I should have checked, but I'll ask you to drop in the comments below. What's the most that it's gone to? Obviously, some people will say 100% when it just began, but I'm looking for recent years. I know that it got to 90%. I know that it got to 80%. I know that it got to 70% not more than 5 years ago, I'm going to guess. Fact check me below. So institutions, or these hedge fund managers, big boys at the table, as some might call them, bet that Bitcoin will strengthen its grip due to its higher liquidity and the interest institutions have shown in it over the past year, the report said. So this is a brilliant report by Crypto Insights Group. Shout out to Andy Martinez, who shared this with me ahead of time, and let me ask him a few dogged questions. There's a lot of interesting things to chew on from that report, but this is what drew my eye in there because, yeah, people are constantly saying Ethereum's going to come back. Has anybody seen Ethereum, though? For it to come back, it needs to be seen. Or that XRP is going to take over Ethereum, or that everything's going to go up at some point. But yeah, it looks like some people don't think so. The expectations of that dominance to grow punctures analyst expectations that the market was on the brink of a full-blown alt season at the end of 2024. That's what an analyst told me last year. So the term alt season refers to a period when interest and prices surge for cryptocurrencies that aren't Bitcoin. But with Bitcoin's dominance expected to increase, that means the top cryptocurrency will capture a larger percentage of the flows entering the crypto space, hurting the potential for alt season to come to fruition. Because it's a disheartening outlook for retail investors who've positioned themselves for a repeat of previous cycles where altcoin seasons usually come just months after Bitcoin reaches new highs. Alt season became very popular in 2017. This was during the ICO boom and bloom, the initial coin offering. So what essentially happened is people poured money into Bitcoin, Bitcoin ran, and then after that, people took all that money and started going down the risk spectrum. Wow, that was tough to say. Then it went into Ethereum. Ethereum ran. Then it went into XRP, Cardano, Dogecoin, all those blue chip cryptocurrencies. And then it kept on going down the risk spectrum. And obviously, the smaller the market value, so let's say you put in $1 million, I'm going to say, into a market cap of $1 million, you can expect what that's going to do to the price. Now, people have been banking on the idea of alt season for years after that, obviously, because people made insurmountable and whopping and eye-watering amounts of money. Like, I'm talking crypto minted millionaires. People your age, people my age, people younger, people older. Like, there was so much fucking money that went around. So obviously people are going to be like, when is it going to happen again? Because fortunately and unfortunately, Bitcoin and its 2x, 3x, 4x just isn't enough for people nowadays. They want those 10, 50, 100x's, and alt season used to give it. But unfortunately, it's not like that's happening anymore. But why? You might be asking. 3 reasons. Hedge fund managers outlined 3 reasons behind why Bitcoin's dominance will continue to surge and potentially blunt any altcoin season. First, Bitcoin has shown remarkable resilience despite US President Donald Trump's trade war. That suggests investors view Bitcoin as a safer haven than more speculative altcoins during macroeconomic uncertainty. In fact, while tech stocks tumbled in the past week during an escalation of the crisis between the US and China, Bitcoin surged 11% to 93,500, prompting some to say a decoupling is underway. I spoke about decoupling in my past video, why it's such a big deal, what people should be positioning themselves for. You can click on it. There's somewhere, I might leave it in the description, but maybe a little video will pop up here that you can click on it so you can go there and figure out what the fuck is going on. What is a decoupling, man? What does that mean? This means, in case you were wondering, that investors might be increasingly viewing Bitcoin as a safe haven asset akin to gold. All you gold bugs out there might be shuddering and shivering with the idea that digital gold is coming for analog gold, but that's what people are starting to say. Now, the second reason is that regulatory uncertainty, such as Bitcoin exchange traded funds and a US strategic Bitcoin reserve, seems to be pushing institutional investors to Bitcoin. However, the polled hedge fund managers argue that this does not translate to more clarity for altcoins, which threatens to further erode confidence. And finally, there's the altcoins themselves. Just a few select tokens have enjoyed boons in their prices, such as Ripple-linked XRP, who's up 300% this year, although at one point it was up 550%, and Solana, while the majority have fared unfavorably in comparison to Bitcoin. Once I ask, has anybody seen Ethereum? This suggests that investors have been underwhelmed by the performance of altcoins and therefore choose to buy Bitcoin, further ballooning its value. So it's like this self-perpetuating circle, isn't it? Fade altcoins, go for Bitcoin. Bitcoin balloons in value. Why would I put money into altcoins when Bitcoin is the only one ballooning in value? So I put it into that, and it continues to balloon in value, and altcoins continue to get left behind. But there is some light on the horizon, some might say. In fact, it's Andy Martinez, the CEO of Crypto Insights Group, the people who are polling these hedge funds, who are pulling these reports, who are making these conversations happening, who are pushing out these data points. Highly recommend checking them out because they've got really, really good stuff out there. To be sure, not everyone is convinced that an altcoin season won't happen. A higher Bitcoin weighting doesn't kill alt season, Martinez told me. Instead, capital has become more selective, funneling into projects with tangible revenues, transparent treasuries, and tighter emission schedules rather than every new ticker that lists under the sun. Martinez also said that odds are stacked against Bitcoin, leaving the entire crypto space behind. A full decoupling is unlikely, while stablecoin growth, on-chain credit, and tokenization keeps the conversation framed around the wider digital asset stack. Yeah, what do you think? I tend to agree. I think I think we're not going to get rid of crypto completely, even though investors are fading it and it's not what it used to be, perhaps. I do think that Bitcoin will continue to become an asset in and of itself. Institutions view it as a different way. Why? Because it's just, on one hand, it's just easier to understand digital gold or electronic money. Whereas you get Ethereum, the supercomputer, ultrasound money, all these new narratives that are constantly popping up. XRP, the crypto for banks. Why do a bank need crypto if they already have the interbanking system? Do you see what I mean? So, and then we go further down the line. So I'm not sure how high we're going to go. And honestly, this could be a blip. And honestly, 70% of hedge funds could be wrong. Who knows? But it's interesting to see that the big boys are banking on the idea that Bitcoin will continue to grow. Bitcoin maxis around the world are celebrating because they're right. If they are right, because it's not true, this is just a prediction, an expectation, a vision of what might come. But yeah, it'll be interesting. What do you think? Do you think that Bitcoin will continue to grow in dominance and decouple from not only TradFi and like tech stocks, but also the crypto space? Or do you think this is just a blip and then crypto will make its unrelenting charge back for all that market share? I'm interested in finding these things out because it's also interesting to take a temperature check on investors, day-to-day investors, because one thing is what institutions are doing, but then I'm also interested in retail investors, the average Joe, the guy on the street or the guy in the pub or the cafe or wherever they do their trading or buying or selling or whatever they want to do, because that for me sometimes creates a bigger pulse. I know that there's a chicken and an egg games where the institution might be the one that's sort of feeding into the retail. Oh, the institution is doing this. Smart money is doing this. So maybe I should do that. But still, the aggregate of dumb money or retail investors is also interesting because it's also the sort of a little bit like the real economy out actually at play. So yeah, let me know below. Do you believe in the idea of smart money versus dumb money? Where do you lie in all this? Choose your news and I'll read you next week.